And we'll take our first question from Franklin McNeil with ESPN.com.
It's for Jake. Jake, going into this camp, obviously you have so many guys at welterweight. You got the Diaz brothers, yourself, and my understanding Daniel Roberts is now with you guys. How has that been? How is that having so many guys, not only in your weight class, but fighting at the time that your fight is scheduled to take place, been beneficial to you?
It helps a lot because, they're all around my weight and they're all training really, really hard and they're all top guys. Of course, none of them have the same skill set as GSP. They all have different things they offer, but you still, I take advantage of what I can get. So it's been a tremendous help. I'm very glad we're all fighting at the same time, and I have 3 top 70-pounders to help me train right now.
And I'm sure most of those guys, if not all of them, those who are not on the card, will be there to lend you support. You guys seem to be very close-knit. Do you think that having so many guys close to you from your camp in the environment where an estimated 50,000 people are expected to be there, most of whom will be cheering against you, is it good to have that close-knit family atmosphere?
Yeah, I'm really glad to have that because even though I'm going into hostile territory where most people are going to be against me, I'm going to be surrounded by, I got like 20 guys coming up with us that are, that are going to be surrounding me, so it's not going to feel like I'm in such hostile territory because I'm going to have my group with me. So I'm very fortunate to be in the situation I'm in.
And the last fight that you had, the first UFC fight, you were coming back down to the welterweight, and you talked about that weight cut. How has the weight cut been for this fight?
Oh, I got that check a long time ago. I was 182 this morning, which for me is a nice, easy cut. I took off over 20 pounds in 24 hours last time, so I'm way underweight. It's going to be no problem. I made a huge mistake, which is 100% my fault last time. I don't want to learn from my mistakes, so I'm certainly not going to do that again.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Hey guys, this is Dave. Before we jump into the next set of questions, I want to let you know that UFC Director of Canadian Operations, Tom Wright, has actually joined the line. So if you have any questions for Tom, he's also on the line. Ryan, back to questions, please.
Thank you. We'll go next to Ron Kruk with Inside MMA.
Good morning, everyone. Question for Jake and then a follow-up with GSP. Jake, you've fought really under the radar for years in many different organizations, and now in your second UFC fight, taking on George St. Pierre for the title. Give us your thoughts about facing GSP in his home country with, 55,000, pretty much providing him a home cage advantage.
First off, my thoughts on fighting GSP is something I've wanted for years. I've been asking for about 4 years. It's something I definitely wanted. I want to test myself against the best, and I think he certainly is the best. And the home country thing, I don't, of course it helps a little bit, but it's really not that big of a deal. I've fought lots of people in their hometowns and home countries, and it just doesn't, it's going to be me and George in there fighting. The crowd can do whatever they want, but it doesn't really bother me that much.
What's been the most difficult part, Jake, of getting prepared for this fight with all the attention, and how have you remained focused?
It's just crazy. I've never had this much media before. I think it's definitely insane. But I know, I know George is dealing with it too. You never realize how much media. I'm still the challenger. It's just insane the amount of interview requests, interviews, and all kinds of stuff. But really, I just put training first. I squeeze my interviews in between training, but I never haven't missed one training session because of it. So that's all that really matters.
Thanks, Jake. Quick one for GSP. George, give us your thoughts in fighting in front of 55,000 Canadian fans.
Well, it's it's the same octagon, it's the same rules. It's just it's a different opponent, and of course this time the bar is raised much higher. I'm fighting much better guys, and but I welcome the challenge. I want to fight the best. I want to be the best. I want to be I don't want to be a paper champion, So I want to be a real champion, and to be a real champion, I need to fight the best contender, the best guy. And Jake Shield, I consider Jake Shield like a champion too. He's champion in many different organizations in many different weight class. Something I never done. So I take this fight very seriously.
More pressure fighting in front of the hometown fans, though.
Yeah, pressure is always there. At the point where I am, I realize that every fight, the pressure is always bigger. When you win a fight, it's always, the sport is getting bigger, fight after fight, so there's more pressure, more people that is watching you. But you need to realize that if I would if I would, let's say I would fight Jake in a basement when nobody is watching, maybe the pressure would not have been that bad. So it's, sometimes it's the people around, the entourage that makes it worse. But on the other side, I perform better when I'm under pressure.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
We'll take our next question from Chris Doucette with the Toronto Sun.
Just wondering for both of you, sort of the flip side of the question for Jake, but for GSP, how do you think that all the media attention going into this event and leading up to fight night, all the interviews you'll have to do, is that going to be much of a distraction for you? And for Jake, is that an advantage for you at all?
I think they have me doing just as many interviews. I don't really know what he's doing, but they have me doing an insane amount, which is something I'm not used to, and I have a feeling we're probably doing somewhere around the same. I looked at my schedule up there, and they have me getting up at 7 in the morning doing interviews, which is 4 o'clock in the morning my time. So this is it seems kind of ridiculous to me. So I don't know.
But for GSP, is it a distraction for you at all, George, to have to do all the interviews, the radio, TV, newspapers leading up to the fight night?
It's always a distraction, It's, for sure, I'm not gonna lie. It's the worst part is this, Sometimes you have to wake up and very early in the morning, do things that it's bad because it messed up your sleep time. But when you're champion, you have to be ready to make this sacrifice. People sometimes they forget that what pays us is the fans, and the fans, they want to know what's going on with us. And I think it's something it's very hard to do. It's not fun. But we have to do it. It's a bad side of our job sometimes. Doing an interview in the middle of the afternoon is great. Sometimes we have to do it, and we don't feel great. We want to rest, something like that. But we have to do it. And it's I'm doing it. There is no perfect job, but it's part of the game.
Thanks, George.
We'll take our next question from Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press.
Thank you. My question is for Jake. Jake, obviously you have a lot of tools in your arsenal, but people always speak about your grappling. Can you talk a little bit about your origins in grappling and why you think you have become so proficient at it?
Yeah, well, originally, I was a wrestler originally through college and whatnot. And then I found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and just fell in love with it. And I started mixing the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. That's kind of why I call my own style American Jiu-Jitsu. So I think my style is just dangerous. Cause a lot of guys will either be like pure wrestlers with the time to Jiu-Jitsu, or they'll be pure Jiu-Jitsu guys with time to wrestling. But I've really found the two and fused it, which makes it, in my opinion, more dangerous, and especially for mixed martial arts.
Does anybody else do it the way you do you think?
No, I don't. I mean, of course, we do something similar, but I don't think there's anyone that fights the way I do. There's similarities, but that makes it I'm a hard guy to train for. So I don't really think there's anyone out there that you can really bring in to match me. But it's the same for George. I couldn't really find anyone. I had to bring several people because I couldn't think of any one person that I could bring to be a perfect training partner for George. It's something. It's a problem you run into when you're fighting really good people.
Okay, thank you.
We'll go next to Elliot Olszewski with UltimateFighter.com.
Good afternoon, everyone. First question is for George. Last time you were getting ready for a fight, you had an opponent who was doing everything he could to mess with you mentally, and you admitted when you were on The Ultimate Fighter that it got you kind of angry. How different is it for you not to have that kind of anger this time around?
Well, it's a lot of people, they try to get into my head. I'm used to it. It's just the difference of the personality. I think Jake is a true champion. He doesn't need to. I think someone who trash talk is because it's a lack of confidence of his part, and I think Jake, he doesn't need to trash talk. He's a humble guy, and but it doesn't mean that he's not gonna go as hard as he can on me the night of the fight. You know what I mean? So he's gonna go as and the same thing for me. We're both gonna hit each other as hard as we can. And we're gonna go for it. It doesn't change it's not gonna change the quality of the fight. The people gonna have a great fight. There's something I can guarantee you.
Yeah, I think me and George have mutual respect. But fight time, we're gonna be going at each other. I'm certainly going after him, and I expect the same.
George, one of the things that you talked about when you were first getting your guys for Ultimate Fighter Cup last year was the concept of the beautiful victory. And I was wondering, when you look at this fight with Jake, what does the beautiful victory against Jake Shields look like to you?
Of course, you talk about beautiful. I want to. You want the finish. You want to take him out. And I want to use my technique. My skills and take him away. It's something that I've been working on in training and being able to reproduce that in the scenario of the fight. That's my goal. That's my main goal.
And then, Jake, question for you. You look at, you and George have both been on, long win streaks with a lot of very distinguished fighters that you've fought and beaten. What do you think is the biggest thing that separates you from the Koscheck's and the Hughes and Sarah and Fitch and BJ Penn that make you that can make you successful where they weren't? And then conversely, what do you think the biggest thing is that separates George from the guys that you fought and beaten over these last few years?
I think there's a lot of differences, between me and those guys. One, I mentally refuse to lose and always find a way to win. I got more heart and I'm in conditioning, and also I think my grappling's on a completely different level than those guys. As far as George goes, he's completely different than anyone I've fought too. He's the best conditioned, one of the best strikers. He's one of those guys with very little holes in his game. Most guys you can watch him break down and you can see some big holes and figure out where to exploit them. And George is a guy with only a few small holes. Of course, he still does have his weaknesses.
And as a reminder, it's star 1 to signal for a question. We'll take our next question from Steven Morocco with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, Jake. I was wondering what your impression was when you heard that GSP was training with Hadra Gracie and Braulio Estima.
I didn't think too much of it. I think those guys are phenomenal jiu-jitsu guys. I think it's very smart of George to train with guys like that. But I would expect that from him. George is the kind of guy who always tries seeking out the best training partners and the best knowledge. So, of course, he's going to find some guys like that to train with.
Do you think they're comparable though to your skill set and maybe a good?
They're different than me, but certainly great guys to bring in because they have top-notch jiu-jitsu. They're bigger. If I was fighting, I would definitely bring in guys like that. So you're not going to, my style is going to be different than anyone you can go with, but they also can have some similarities. So of course that's going to help train with guys like that.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about your underdog status in this fight? Your 4-1 underdog. Was that surprising to you? Do you feel any lack of respect there, or was it pretty much?
It was a little surprising, but it doesn't bother me at all. I was 4-1 against Henderson. That also surprised me. You looked at mine and Henderson records at the time. We were pretty much accomplished the same things. We fought, both all kinds of guys. He was a 4-1 favorite, but it didn't bother me at all. I don't look at myself as an underdog going into this fight. I look at us as two guys going in even, and in my mind, I'm going to go out there and win. If I was looking at it thinking I can't beat him, I'd have no chance of beating him. But I don't look at it that way.
Okay, thanks.
We'll take our next question from Dave Dybert with Post Media News.
Hi, guys. I got same question for each of you. Going back to your younger days, earlier in your career, when you guys each won your first title, smaller organization, definitely smaller crowds than the ones that you're fighting in front of now. If you guys had called it quits, at that time, after you won that title, feeling, I guess, at that point on top of the world, would you have been happy not knowing what you know now? But you won a title, you had some success. What did that very first title mean to each of you guys?
Well, for me, my very first title was the Shooto World title,
right,
which was really legit at the time, and
sure,
still pretty legit, and it meant a lot to me, and I was very happy to have it. But if I would have retired right then, I don't think I'd be happy. Who knows what I'd be doing now? But ultimately, that was just the start of it. That just made my hunger even more. So I guess it certainly wasn't enough for me.
Mm-hmm.
For me, my first title in the mixed martial art was the UCC Canadian title.
Yes.
And well, I always I don't want to, that there is a teeny line between confidence and being cocky, and I don't want to be cocky, but I always knew, even before I started fighting, I always had a very strong strong belief in myself, a very strong confidence in myself. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been doing it so great. I always knew that even before I start my professional career, I could be champion. I had that belief in myself, and I really believe in deep down in my heart that I could be the greatest, and that's the same belief I think that made me be where I am today, and it goes even way before I win the title. And of course, if I would have stopped at that time when I win my first title, I would not have been happy, because I like to know how far I can go.
Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys, very much.
We'll take our next question from Leif Knutson with Fox News Twin Cities.
Hi there, Jake, GSP. First off, for Jake, you were fighting at 185 and seemed pretty committed to the weight class before you came over to the UFC, and were obviously recruited by Dana to come in and take on GSP.
Yeah.
Did the weight cut have any play in the negotiation process? Was that Dana have to throw, another bone your way to cut down?
No, it was just kind of really I'd gotten really big and started being comfortable at 85, but ultimately GSP was still the guy I wanted to fight. I'd wanted to fight him for a long time, and of course I'd like to fight Anderson Silva as well, but for some reason I just thought GSP was kind of in my mind the greatest fighter right now. He's the guy I wanted to fight. So even though I was big, when they offered me to drop back down, I decided that it was something I thought I should do. And even though the cut was really hard at first, now that I've probably got my weight down here, I feel a lot better at 170s.
Sure. Regardless of this fight, and I'm not asking you to look past GSP by any means, but do you see yourself bouncing back and forth like a Henderson to 185 to 170, or?
Yeah, I would probably move back up, but it's as I found last time, it's a lot of work to move up and a lot of work to move down. So I'd have to I have to think about it a little more this time. It's really hard going up back every fight. So I probably want to do a couple fights down and then maybe a couple fights back up, because putting the weight on was really hard for me, and then taking it back off was really hard on me. So it's a big jump, and that's something people have always been, pushing GSP, jump up and fight Anderson. But they don't realize it takes a lot of work to put that weight on and a lot of work to take it back off.
Sure. And that gets my next question. I'll start with you, GSP. There's a lot of talk with both of you guys between 170 and 185, and would you see, this is a rare case where you guys could actually fight at 170, and then further down the road, if you're both at 85, you could fight at 185. Would you see the fight going any different at 185 compared to 170?
Right now, I'm a 170 pounder. If I would fight at 185, it would be a complete reorientation of my career.
Mm-hmm.
And we've seen in the past boxers like just Roy Jones. To my opinion, what ends Roy Jones' career winning streak is when he went up in weight and tried to go back down. It's not the fact that he went up; it's when he tried to go back down that messed him up. And for me, it's a good example, because Roy Jones was known as one of the best of all time before he started losing, And I think it made me think twice sometimes to change weight. It's not really to go up that hurt you. Sometimes it's to go down, and there is a time frame that you need to respect and do it well, and do it in a proper time. Doing in a proper timing as well. So for me now, I don't even consider moving weight right now. I need to fight Jake Shield. That's my main priority right now. After that, we'll see. I don't know what's gonna happen.
And as a reminder, it's star one to signal for a question. We'll take our next question from Randy Harris of Talking Sports.
Yeah, this question is for Jake, and I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but with the 55, maybe 58, 60,000 people, Jake, everybody seems to make that out to be a negative. Could that be a positive, you going up there? Some guys like that.
I mean, yeah, it could work either way. I don't really know. I've never had 50,000 people booing me, so I'll find out. It's one of those things. Yeah, it could possibly motivate me to fight harder. It could screw GSP up. Maybe the crowd going crazy might make him nervous, or you don't really know what the factors are going to be. So all we can do is go out there and fight and find out.
And I was going to ask George the same thing. Is it maybe a negative, not a positive, having 60,000 people screaming for you?
Well, I never experienced that in my life. The loudest crowd I had in my life is in Montreal, and it was like 24,000 people. It's gonna be I think it's gonna be a neutral field. we're both going to be in unknown territory. And, like Jake said, he could play well for me. He could play very bad. But the thing is, I need to be focused on the main thing, and the main thing is to win the fight. That's my main focus. I don't care. I'm not going to try to care about the crowd, what they say, if they boo, if they scream. I'm going to be focused on one thing.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
We'll take our next question from Damon Martin at MMAweekly.com.
Hey, guys. First question is for George. George, going into this fight, Jake Shields is a bit of an underdog, but you've talked about fighting Jake for many years, even, before he was in the UFC. What was it about him that always intrigued you, even, 2-3 years ago?
I'm going to tell you something, guys, about Jake Shields. When everyone thought he was going to lose to Robbie Lawler, I knew he was going to win. I knew it. When everyone thought he was going to lose to Dan Anderson, I knew. I told all my friends, I was watching the fight, I knew he was going to win. I knew every single time that Jake Shields was an underdog going to fight, I knew. I have the strong belief that he was going to win. The people, they don't realize, because, they see a guy get knocked out, it seems it's very violent, like they see like Dan Anderson with a very powerful overhand, right? He knocked out many people, like, Robbie Lawler, obviously, a very powerful puncher, knocked out many people. So people forget that a guy who's got good submission hold, it's just as dangerous as a knockout punch. You can be winning the whole fight, the four round, and then the 5 round you're winning. At the last minute, you commit a mistake, and bang, you have to tap. Otherwise, your limb will break, or you're gonna be choked out unconscious. It's just as bad as a knockout punch. Jake Shields has a weapon that it's even more dangerous than a knockout punch, He's and he always find a way to bring the fight in his game where he's the strongest, even though the odds are all against him. That's why this fight is the most dangerous fight for me. And I'm going to tell you right now, I strongly believe that if I would put Jake against any of the contender that I've fought before, Jake would have won the fight. So that's why this fight, like I said, when I say that this fight, the bar is raised higher than it ever been before, I'm not lying about it.
When you see the odds, people talk about the odds. I don't play much into odds, but does it bug you, George, that people are trying to rate Jake as such an underdog in this fight? I mean, even though obviously you're the champion, but does it bug you that people aren't giving him the respect?
This is foolish. This is like a trap for me. I'm not gonna fall into that trap. This is the odds. It's ridiculous. Like I can't believe like people that make the odds. Sometimes they don't even know the sport. You know what I mean? They have no idea who they're dealing with. You know what I mean? And it's to know the sport, you need to be into it. And most of people that I think they make the odds, they don't really know the sport very well. Like I said, they don't respect the submission ability as much as a knockout punch. They don't respect the submission ability as much as a knockout strike.
And one question for Jake. Jake, we talked about your training camp and your training partners, but how much does your past experience against guys like Yushin Okami, Carlos Condit, Dan Henderson, Jason Miller, I mean, you've been in deep water with some of the best guys at both weight classes. I mean, how much does your past experience give you confidence going into this fight?
I think it gives me a lot of confidence because I've been in 5-rounders, I've been in wars, I've fought good guys. So, even though George is the champ and, a great champion, like he says, I've been a champion too. I've fought 5-rounders. I've been to deep water. It's not like a lot of people look at me as the new guy because they don't, they're just the UFC fans. They don't realize though that I've been in actually, more fights than George. So we're not by a lot, but I've done the same things. So it's nothing new to me. That's why I think this is going to be such a great fight, such a war.
Thanks very much, guys.
And we'll take a follow-up question from Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press.
Yes, my first is a quick one for George. George, what would you weigh right about now?
I'm about 185.
Okay. And earlier there was a reference to a beautiful victory, and I wanted to ask both of you, when you look at your fight resume, in the fights to date, what would you point to as being the most beautiful victory that you've had?
I'm going to tell you the truth. I really enjoy. I like my fight with Alves and maybe John Fitch, Thiago Alves and John Fitch, because sometimes I win in the decision. It's true, but there's a lot of stuff that I've done in that fight that it was beautiful. It was stuff that I've been working on in training camp. Even with Dan Hardy, there is a, I'm saying that people sometimes they don't acknowledge submission and grappling as much as knockouts, and striking. And there's the truth. Like I remember in the fight with Dan Hardy, I got Dan Hardy. I slip off his back. I end up on the floor. I get a position, a Shigurami, a leg lock position. Then I went for a sweep and a guard pass, all in the same, like back to back, bang, bang, bang. And I recover from a bad position to a good position. And people who doesn't know the sport of mixed martial art, they don't have any grappling knowledge. They don't even acknowledge that what happened, But guy that really know mixed martial art, they can appreciate that more. And that's why, when I talk about Jake Shield, me, I know the danger of this fight because I know grappling. I know what I'm dealing against. I don't know 100%, but I'm gonna find out. But I know how dangerous this could be. Like people, they make the odds. They don't even acknowledge the true skill set of Jake Shield, and that is something that really pissed me off, because I have the pressure of going through Jake Shield like a knife in the butter. But they don't understand the danger into it. People keep asking me about, what are you gonna do next? I'm like, it's not what I'm gonna do next. What is happening right now is the most dangerous part of my career the most dangerous threat I ever faced in my career, and people they don't even acknowledge that.